Have you ever looked at a picture of your younger self and thought, hey, I had no idea what was coming. This was me, Bubby, chatty, and I was born deaf. I had no idea that I was deaf. My parents did not know. My teacher, no one around me knew. I was so good at pretending to hear that nobody noticed, not even me. And the thing about my deafness is that the world estimated that I could hear. So I thought, hey, I was just like everyone else. And the way I learned to be able to act like everyone was that in group conversation, I nodded my head when people were speaking. I was copying everyone else when I saw them laughing. I was like, laughing. And I didn't know what was funny. And learning how to speak was a challenge. I learned to pronounce words based on how I thought they were pronounced. And you might notice while I'm talking right now, so there might be certain words I might mispronounce. And the way I learned how to speak was my parents, my family. They would correct me thousands of times. Sometimes I had to put my hand in their voice so I could feel the vibration. And one day, I remember when I was at school, and they called my parents and asked them if they could perform a hearing test. And my parents said, yes. And they called them to schedule a meeting. And that meeting was very interesting. And during that meeting, I was there, my parents were there, the school administrator was there. And I remember like sitting there in that room, my parents, they heard that scary sentence. Their child failed the hearing test. She is deaf. What do you think happened? Oh no, I can't believe it. Parents side. My mom, she's very, very caring. She liked to worry about every little thing. So what she did, she could not believe what she was hearing. So she took me to a lot of specialists. I did countless of tests. And after going to all these specialists, they heard that same phrase over and over again. Your child failed the hearing test. She's deaf. The thing about my deafness is that I was not hiding it. I mean, the world thought that I was hearing, so I thought I was hearing as well. So I learned to pretend that I was hearing, I was performing that. And I'm sure you all have been in an environment where you felt like you had to pretend to be something that you're not. It can be at work, at school, anywhere. It doesn't have to come from deafness. So you can feel like that feeling where you feel anxious, you feel nervous, you feel anxiety, when you're performing something. But you're just showing up. Sometimes it feels so natural, like you're so used to performing something. It feels like part of your daily task. It just feels like just another day. So the thing about pretending is that you're always hiding, part of yourself to perform something that the world wants you to do. And researchers like to call it masking. And something about masking is that you hide part of yourself to meet the world expectation. And for me, it's kind of like, it's something that's hard, that's really challenging, and I'm sure you all can agree with that. When you keep masking, it comes with a price tag. You pay for it, I'll pay for it, whatever you gotta do, right? And we can call that personal cost. And that cost is something that drains you emotionally every day. And it can be like telling someone, yes, I'm coming to your party. And suddenly, when you get home, you pay for it. And you're like, oh, after I sit in my bed, I could have realized I had a long day at work. But, you show up 100% of that energy. It can be like anywhere that you go. And when you get back home, you don't feel positive about yourself. You feel negative. You start regretting it. So something about our reading of research, and the research was usually about like diagnosing people with autism. And the research, they actually spoke with everyone, those who were diagnosed with autism and also those who were not. And something that they found interesting about pretending to belong and masking is that everyone felt like it was mentally exhausting, draining. And something that one participant said that caught my attention is that they thought social situation was mentally tasking, and that everyone felt exhausted. They thought it was normal, to be part of that. The thing about personal costs is the more you do it, the worse it gets. So the higher the mental cost that you pay, you also struggle more with depression, and that actually deepens. You start forgetting what you look like and who you're supposed to be. For example, like my story, I mentioned it, the world thought I was hearing, so I just kept going, and I acted as if I was hearing. But who are you without the mask on? Something about pretending to belong is that it doesn't just cost, like us personally. It costs every single person. What I mean by that cost multiplies in you, all of us. It multiplies within your community, at work, in your team. So you guys have probably watched like some games, soccer game, and then I also, one player was not feeling, the bad. And then they just show up, and that affected the entire team. And you had the feeling, oh my God, why did that happen, right? So it's a cost that we all pay for. And at work, we are actually paying $8.8 trillion. But this number represents basically, it's saying that people are actually showing up at work, but they're not being productive. They're performing, but they're not contributing. We're paying for that with mental health, money, and so many other ways. For me, what I thought that I needed to do is I need to figure out how do I need to stop showing up in the way the world wanted me to, because that was really important. And when you keep pretending to belong, it doesn't just affect you like emotionally, mentally. It drains you. It puts you in danger. For example, if you're someone who's deaf, and everyone assumes that you're hearing, and you're like in a physical environment, and ultimately there's fire alarm, you're in the bathroom, there's fire alarm, or there's an emergency announcement. It happened to me where everyone evacuated building, and I walked out of the bathroom, and an officer came, and I saw a lot of police officers, and then I had no idea. I was like, what's going on? Why are you guys coming out here? And ultimately, they're like, hey, you need to leave the building now. I'm like, I'm deaf, I can't go. So you put your life at risk, in quiet moments. So when you're trying to be just like everyone else, it's your cost, to care. You put yourself in danger physically as well. And for you guys, it can be, hey, I'm showing up at work, I'm driving, and you can be like mentally, you're not there mentally, you're driving, you can be crying and be like, oh my God, all this stuff. So you're also, putting yourself in danger, driving, affecting other people in the world. So the thing about performing to belong is that, yes, it can help you in the short term, but really, you should ask yourself, is it helping me in the long term? Why? Because you're showing up as someone, it's draining you. You won't have the energy to be who you need to be. You spend all your energy burning it and trying to be something else. But how can you be Saida? How can you be someone else? How can you be who you're supposed to be, yourself? So the problem was never that I couldn't hear. The problem was that the world assumed that I could hear. And I just had to leave on that script. But over time, I learned that I shouldn't. I'd like to share a story, and that story is actually about a family member who attended to a deaf community event with me. And when they were in that environment, they found themselves in a group conversation, and a lot of people were signing, and guess what? I felt like I was part of that environment for the first time in my life. I felt it was clicked. While they were there, they were nodding, they were laughing. I was like, oh, they shouldn't be laughing at this, you know? And they were copying what other people were doing. They were feeling anxiety. They were sweating. And guess what? The moment they stepped out of that building, they were normal. They were fine, you know, it was like it was their world. They were able to be who they were supposed to be. And at that moment, I thought, the disability did not move, but they moved it. So the problem was the environment, right? So they had to fake who they were. They had to try to voice, you know, the energy. They had to try to belong in that environment. Here's what I learned, is that you cannot leave unscripted, you know, in an environment that hands you the script and tell you, hey, this is how you need to leave. Just like the world handed me the script. Boom, you're hearing, you know, but I was deaf. And I was trying to live in a hearing world like that. And when it comes to that, but really, if you want to continue and find a way to survive in the long run, it's going to take you a lot of courage to learn how to unmask. It's hard to unlearn, you know, it's something that you have been doing for such a long time. And eventually, but if you want to make it, you got to unlearn it, you know? So the question we need to start asking ourselves is, how can we make it easier for people to show up, you know, as themselves? How can we make it easier for them, you know, to unmask? Because that is costing all of us. And but we can leave like in the short term, you know, masking. But it's hard, you know, to continue doing that in the long term because it's costing you, it's draining you. You're not being, you know, the person that you're supposed to be. And that's a cost we all need to stop paying. Thank you.
Well,